Georgia is terrible. You might as well mail it in. Forget about success in this 2025 season because the national media has spoken and Georgia ain't got no prayer. Next on Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast family. Your team every single day. Hey, everydayers, we're glad you're here. First listeners, We're glad you're here. You guys make this podcast what it is. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Use promo code Locked On College, 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. Today, Daniel, we are talking about how the national media has spoken and how Georgia is absolutely, unequivocally, 1,000% disrespected because we're going to get into where Georgia ranks, but let me just give you up front. People think we're bad. We've fallen off. We have no talent.
Dynasty's done.
Dynasty is over. Kirby might as well have packed it up. He should go to the Dolphins right now or fake a heart attack so that he can go to
spend more time with his family.
These are the things that the national media is telling us by where they do the preseason rankings. Now, just to give you a heads up, Daniel and I give little to no credibility to preseason rankings. Okay, here's why. I have long since argued that we should actually have no rankings next to any name until the playoff rankings, because it biases people into believing certain teams are good when they're actually not. And it biases people into believing that playoff selection should be based upon people who don't watch all the games. I'm not kidding you. People vote on this are not required to watch all the games.
At the end of week one, you might suspect that your team has gotten a good win or had a bad loss.
Sure.
You might suspect, but no one in America at the end of week one will have any idea if their team has just beaten another good team.
Correct.
Or lost to a bad team, because we can speculate about how those teams will be. And listen, you can use some logic and you can deduce and you can use the eye test and you can usually whittle it down. But sometimes there are going to be teams that are going to surprise you one way or the other. You think they're going to be really good. Turns out the chemistry's not there. They don't have the right components. They're not that good at all. It's not that impressive to beat them. And vice versa. You think they're going to be really bad. And, you know, they turn out to actually be a really solid, good team. And that was a good win. But it was against an unranked team.
Correct.
Because we've got these dumb ranking systems. This show, just to piggyback on that, then is not about any of the rankings that we're going to reference in this show. This is not a show about where Georgia sits in the preseason rankings. We are going to use that information in order to facilitate a conversation on what the show is really about, which is that the overall narrative about the University of Georgia is not even that Kirby's washed up or that it's over or that any of those things.
Sure.
But the overall narrative is that this 2025 team just doesn't have the talent, just isn't as good as the previous teams that we are used to seeing from Kirby Smart. SEC championship teams, college football playoff teams, national championship teams that we have seen in the recent past. Is that narrative true? Where does it come from? And what do we think about it? That's going to be what we are talking about today on this show. But let's jump in to the On3 put out these preseason top
I was just
25.
going to say, let's start by telling people where we're getting this from. On Three, which is recruiting brand experts, gave out their top 25. Now, it is important to understand that because while they are not commentary for all of college football development, coaching, and that, they are commentary on recruiting cycles, talent evaluation. That's kind of their bread and butter. They gave out a top 25. And to Daniel's point, this is telling us that they think Georgia, talent-wise, is void of anything that they've had previously. This is one of the, during Kirby Smart's tenure, we've been ranked not in the top 5 before, and we've gotten to number 1 and we've won championships. All that's true. But this is one of the most significant drop-offs from what was last year a playoff team to this year, and coming off of recruiting cycles in which we have been number 1, 2, and 3 all the way through. So this is top 25 by On Three for college football. Daniel, where do you want to start with the people? Georgia comes in. You want to tell them where Georgia comes in on this?
Yeah, let's start with Georgia, and then let's just give an overview of the landscape of this top 25 to begin with, and then we'll begin kind of extrapolating our points from there.
I love that. Okay, Georgia comes in at 8 on the top 25 for the preseason 25. The teams ahead of Georgia in order 1 through 7: Texas, Notre Dame, Clemson at 3, Penn State at 4, Ohio State 5, Oregon 6, Alabama 7. After Georgia, we're going to go probably top 15. Illinois comes in at 9, Florida 10, Texas Tech 11, South Carolina 12, Auburn 13, SMU 14, LSU 15. Daniel, what's notable about this, let's start where Georgia is positioned in this. Georgia comes off, like I said, one of the top teams, playoff team last year. Gets that first round bye, goes to the second round, loses to Notre Dame, comes in at 8 to begin the year. And this is telling us that people sense a dramatic drop-off, just comparative from Georgia teams, not everybody else. We're going to get to that in the second segment. But compared to our own teams, we are worse off than last year's club. Daniel, that's what they're telling us.
That's unequivocal. The number 2 seed in the college football playoff last year, SEC championship, preseason 8th. That's a stark drop-off this year's team to last year's team. So again, I'm going to talk in the second segment about Georgia compared to Texas, the team that's number 1 on this list. Georgia compared to Florida, the team that's number 10 on this list, just 2 spots behind Georgia. I'm going to talk about Georgia compared to some of those teams. Let's just talk about this year's team versus last year's team. Okay. I'm going to start with the easy one.
Go ahead,
Clint. Is the defense this year, in your opinion, going to be better than, worse than, or the same as the defense last year? And do you have anything that you might use to back that up?
This is great. Show your work. I'm going to go with 2 things. One, you might be saying, well, we lost a Butkus Award winner and a top 15 pick, Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, both off this team, and a safety, Malachi Starks. 3 first rounders on this defense were going to be worse. Let me just tell you, you're wrong. Just if anybody tells you Georgia's going to take a step back defensively, one, they don't realize how underperforming that team was. Michael Williams, Jalen Walker played all over the field. Michael Williams was on a pitch count all year long because of an ankle injury that they needed him only in a few games, and he showed out in those few games. So that's 1. 2, our defensive backroom, while thin at safety, is really strong at corner. Our cornerback room vastly improved because the guys that are there are better, and Ellis Robinson's come along. 2,
cut a little bit of fat at the cornerback position as well, Clint.
If Texas A&M
trimmed a little bit of fat.
Sometimes that brisket, you don't want all the fat. You got to take some stuff off to get to the really good stuff. Secondly, our trenches, defensive line is about to be a drastically, and I mean drastically, improved unit. Chaz Chambliss was the top sack getter for us. Okay, just like
no disrespect.
Okay, no disrespect. He was the top havoc creator on the edge graded. No disrespect. Love Chaz, but that's bad. Jordan Hall comes back. Kristen Miller comes back. They're going to be healthy and an infusion of talent. Talent-wise, the guys coming in are better than last year's group, unequivocally. And we have the best linebacking, the best categorical, talent-wise, the best position group in all of SEC and in inside linebackers.
You lose those talented players who have developed and are in their fourth year.
Yeah.
But the guys who are replacing them with, while unproven and younger and inexperienced, are more talented players than the people that they are replacing. Now, that's not to say they're going to definitely perform better than the people that they're replacing. But there are so many of them. Chris Cole, Justin Williams at linebacker, Joseph Jonah-Ajonye at defensive end, replacing Michael Williams. Jordan Hall in the middle, coming back from injury. Elijah Griffin, we've talked about. The level of ultra talented guys that are going to get their opportunities now that some of those guys have moved on, as well as things like the development of KJ Bolden, the development of Dalen Everett. These are guys that are in the program that are coming back. This defense is absolutely going to be better than it was last year. We're talking about the offense compared to last year's team, but then we're going to get into some of these other teams, some of these other interesting comparisons, and
it's going to be laughable.
We're going to discuss Arch Manning when we come back after these.
But these are, in fact, Amazon Fire TV Stick. Did you know that Fire TV is also on Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, sign into Xbox Game Pass Unlimited with EA Play Sports included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. You know what, Daniel and I, we can go all day about gaming and what we really love about content creation on channels. But look, we want Xbox games without the big upfront investment of a console. Fire TV Stick has it. Low pressure way to start exploring because we love video game systems and getting them in on the action. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV locked on to get started. Xbox Game Pass, Ultimate subscription, and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen.
Now, the offensive side of the ball, Clint, is maybe a position where some people might be more prone to argue. I just don't think anybody's going to look at this defense and tell me that this Georgia defense is going to be worse.
Again, if you do, you're not paying attention. I just have to.
Well, that being said, most of the national media is saying just that because they are. I should never be surprised when I run into an idiot. That's on me at that point. If I am surprised.
Well, if you cite a website who begins with E, you're done. You're cooked already.
So let me talk to you about this Georgia offense. And instead of talking about players coming back and players returning, I'm just going to tell you that without disparaging any individual players, Georgia could not run the ball last year. Period.
Not his opinion. But statistical analysis of us being at the bottom of categories in which show your metrics for rushing the football.
And included in the group of people that knew Georgia couldn't run the ball last year were the Georgia offensive coaches. Meaning that what we saw from the Georgia offense last year was necessarily the most pass-first, pass-dominant offense. The ball was placed in the hands of the quarterback to survey the field, make decisions, and hit the open receivers. That was how the offense was predicated. Georgia had a quarterback that threw the ball to the other team more at a higher rate than Georgia has seen in quite some time. And Georgia had a room full of wide receivers who dropped more passes than any other team that we have seen from Georgia. And this was the whole offense, was the passing game. So you got a quarterback that's throwing it to the other team. You got receivers that are not catching it when it hits them in the hands. And Georgia cannot run the ball. You don't have to love Zachariah Branch or Nate Frazier or Micah Morris to feel like this Georgia offense almost has to be better this year than they were last year, Clint. The offense was a massive deficiency for this team. How many games did we go into halftime with 6 points last year?
How many times do we all want to decry Bobo and Kirby, and this offense was doing no favors anytime, couldn't move, wasn't ahead of the chains. Every metric we care about measuring, we were awful at. And it was not because the play calling has remained similar every single year. Carson Beck is a head case. Good luck, Miami. Our running game was not present, and we've improved across the board at literally every position. We've gotten better.
Yeah.
Other
than that, there's no reason to think we'll be better. That
a horribly performing, less talented offense last year. And this year, we're a more talented, yet to be determined performance offense. It bodes well for us that we will be better on offense next year. One would say, if not, we will be calling for people's heads to roll.
Absolutely. So I'm going to get into what to me is the most ridiculous disparity of one individual team. In the third segment, we'll let Clint talk about his kind of most ridiculous team on this list as compared to Georgia. I want to talk about Texas, the number one team in the country. Everyone's kind of consensus number one team in the country going into next year. And I want to preface this by saying that Sark has done a great job.
Yes, he has.
In recruiting and in on-field coaching. I think 100%. Sark is a tremendous coach. I think he's coached circles around Lane Kiffin in the modern era of college football. I think those two names were kind of synonymous with each other, these Nick Saban disciples. And I think Lane Kiffin has milked the I worked for Nick Saban as hard as any person could possibly milk it. He's extracted every single ounce of respect that anyone could ever garner from being the former employee of a person who was great. But Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin are not the same. They're not the same person. And Sark has done a great job at Texas in elevating that program to a true contender. I simply will ask you, Clint, all of the Texas love this offseason, and you know this and I know this, all of it is predicated on the fact that Texas is getting better at quarterback because they have offloaded Quinn Ewers and they have brought in Arch Manning, the savior of the program, the future number one overall draft pick, the consensus lock to be the number one quarterback taken in the 2026 draft. Can you tell me one reason, Clint, why anyone who's watched football should think that Arch Manning is a better college quarterback than Gunnar Stockton?
I would have to do the opposite.
Just one reason. Give me one reason.
I could list 3 off the top of my head why you shouldn't think that.
Well, no, it's obvious that Arch Manning's better than Gunnar Stockton. It is
because his last name is Manning.
It's the universal opinion of every person in the world. So I'm just looking for one of the many reasons why.
It's the one reason is his last name is Manning.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's it. Because the 3 others, his package when he came in were all running plays, no passing plays. Quinn Ewers was not good at quarterbacking at all.
No, none.
Texas was better at running the football than anything else, including the times when Manning was in.
Correct.
All indications that a quarterback might be a good leader, I suppose, in those instances. I don't know. But no indications from film study, from metric study, from statistical study that says he is better than Quinn Ewers at all.
What if I was to tell you that Arch Manning in his career,
here we go,
has thrown 95 passes?
Okay, so a sample size of 100. That's like minimum sometimes that you get for statistical in a season. Okay, so
yeah, he's thrown 95 passes. So 2 games worth of passes is what he's thrown.
Sure.
He's thrown a couple of games in his career worth of passes. He's played in 9 games, appeared in 9 games over 2 years. 90% of his yards and touchdowns have come in 3 of those 9 games. Would you like to know the opponents in those 3 games?
I really would, Daniel.
They are Mississippi State, who had the 109th ranked pass defense in America.
That's bad.
And the other 2 are University of Louisiana Monroe and the University of Texas San Antonio. So
bad.
3 games.
Yep.
He has put up 90% of his yards and 90% of his touchdowns. That is the only sample that we have for Arch Manning.
Now, conversely, Gunnar Stockton has not played at the top level in pressure situations against one of the better defenses in the entire nation that we might compare him against.
I'll tell you this, he's never played against Louisiana Monroe.
No, he is not. He's only played against...
Got 0 snaps.
Again, literally one of the best defenses in all America in Notre Dame.
Yeah. So the Texas defense in the second half, which he willed us to come back and win that game.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that is a consensus top 5 linebacker, apparently.
That is interesting.
In Hill.
And then the Notre Dame defense in the college football playoff, in which he nearly overcame 0 left tackle.
Not playing.
And a kickoff return for a touchdown.
By himself. And with wide receivers that didn't want to catch the ball.
To will us to be competitive in that game. Now, the sample size is smaller.
Sure.
For Gunnar Stockton, but I'm going to argue Gunnar Stockton already, I'm not going to argue this, I'm going to state it unequivocally.
Please do.
Gunnar Stockton already has more passing yards and more passing touchdowns in his career against decent to good teams.
But Daniel, this is talent-wise, Arch is better. Talent-wise. All you talent.
But why?
But why?
But why? He has come in against Georgia twice and done nothing.
Nothing.
He has never performed. He was not good enough to beat out Quinn Ewers, who Texas fans universally believe to be a very bad quarterback. So either what I said a few minutes ago is untrue, and that Steve Sarkisian is actually like guilty of malpractice, is not a good football coach, is an absolute idiot.
Okay.
Or Arch Manning's not good enough to beat out Quinn Ewers, and that should be a fairly significant red flag.
Option 2.
Yeah.
We're going to come back after these. I'm going to let you know about teams that are just ridiculous on this list as well. But first, these. These are, in fact, Monarch money. Ever check your bank account, Daniel, and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out,
today, in fact,
shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch money isn't just a budgeting app. It's complete financial command center. You're not just managing your money. You're building wealth. It's easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever on this app. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Daniel.
All right, Clint. We're here in the third segment, by the way. Welcome.
Welcome
to the third segment. It's everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. If you don't stay and listen till the end, you're missing out on all the good stuff. Listen, we talked about Georgia versus Georgia and how it's idiocy to think that you would drop this team, at least significantly. I understand if a couple of teams make massive improvements, right? Sometimes you could not drop, but you drop in the rankings because maybe a couple teams pass you.
Yeah.
But to take Georgia from number 2 in the country to number 8 in the country, when they've gotten better on defense and better on offense, idiocy, malpractice from Andy Staples and the people at On3.
Ridiculous.
And then we talk about them compared to Texas, the consensus number 1 overall team in the country. All that's based on Arch Manning and the lunacy there. Where else do you look on this list and get a hearty chuckle in terms of what the national media thinks about this Georgia team?
Okay, the easiest one I could go to, I'm just going to compare teams in the top 15. I stopped in 15. I'm going to ask that the rankings indicate there's usually like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 of the top 25. Tier 1 or maybe 1 through 4, 1 through 5, or maybe it's like playoff teams, first round bye guys, people in the semifinals. Georgia, I think, should have been, if I was just doing this based on last year and this year compared to the rest of the teams, I have no problem with us being 5 or 6, getting booted out of the playoffs against Notre Dame, the uncertainty in a couple positions. I'm fine with 5 or 6 up there. That great.
I got some questions though, but like I'll
right.
Go on.
I have some questions as well.
But I'm who those teams are ahead of us. But go on.
Okay. Here's my question.
Okay.
You're telling me that we are closer to Auburn in talent level than to Texas, who we beat twice last year.
7 spots behind Texas, 5 spots ahead of Auburn.
You're indicating to me we're tier 2 on the same level as Auburn, who has Hugh Freeze still calling plays, a new quarterback coming in, everybody transferring out, a defense that's suspect, and an offensive line that doesn't have a lot of talent, wide receivers that are all gone as well. And you're telling me that we're closer to them than the team we beat twice last year with a defunct quarterback and our defense playing lights out against an all-world tackle. Like, this is what you're describing. I'm not saying it. You're saying it to me. That's malpractice right there. We are closer to Texas than we are Auburn. And there's, I will die on that hill. Okay. That's ridiculous. The second thing, you think DJ Lagway is so good to overcome every roster mismanagement that Florida has. Florida's been out recruited up and down the Sunshine State by everybody else, including Florida State, by the way. And you're going to put them 2 spots behind in the top 10 because DJ Lagway has an electric arm. That's what you're indicating to me.
Billy Napier's still employed.
But old ball coach was a better ball coach than Billy Napier. He was the biggest dork in the world.
10 miles.
He's better than Billy Napier. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Daniel, this group of SEC teams, the way this list is constructed, it is very much telling you the SEC is comprised of one team up here.
Yep.
And then a bunch of teams all in a jumble down here. The one team is Texas because they have Arch Manning.
Apparently.
And the jumble of teams includes Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina.
South Carolina should be ahead of both Florida as well as Illinois.
I am sorry, but this is where Clint and I diverge. This man, Shane Beamer, has never done anything but try hard in his life. Show me one thing, and then we can talk about South Carolina.
Okay, fine.
Auburn and LSU all just clumped together.
I ask the final question I asked before. 3 for Clemson. Dabo Swinney.
That's the one I can't. We didn't even get to. That's
the most egregious one out of all of them.
That's the one.
Truly and honestly, top 3 team, meaning they are close to a bye.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Well,
Mommy and Daddy give me money for a lemonade stand, and Cade Klubnik is out there selling lemonade. Now, explain to me how
we have an incredible defense. You had all the same defenders last year. They're all the same guys. You lost your running back that kept you in games in Maffa, and you have Cade Klubnik who showed nothing. He has a bigger sample size than Arch Manning and a less talent pool than Arch Manning. And you have him in 3, and Dabo Swinney is still the head ball coach over there and finally dipped into the portal. And you're telling me this is supposed to be good to go and everything great. They have brought in 3 transfers in the portal, one of which being an edge from Purdue, but then they've lost 8 in the portal as well, including defensive line, including edge, including wide receiver, a couple wide receivers, 3 wide receivers. How in the world do you have the guts to put Clemson at 3?
Okay, first of all, Clemson may go undefeated this year because I don't know what the non-con looks like, but the AC, that schedule's ridiculous. It is. The ACC is the most embarrassing football conference in America.
Correct.
So I understand that they're going to finish the season really high.
Sure.
They don't belong at the top of this list. The disrespect for Georgia is, again, Clint said it yesterday. Kirby's tried to sell his players. Oh, they said we were going to go 7-5. Oh, they said we couldn't do it. Oh, they said we were disrespected. Oh, they said we couldn't come in here. Kirby doesn't need your help, national media, but you're giving him plenty of help. And so from me to you, let me just be the first to say thank you. Thank you for being you. Never change. Never, ever change. We will be back later this week with more on the Georgia football team, and we will see you guys then.
See you.